Hello, you guys. All right, we're back in my bed that is cozy. It's like two friends hanging out, chit-chatting. But also, I don't think my bed's that cozy, if I'm being honest with you. But we like this setup because I feel like I can just lay in my bed and talk to you guys and just like we can have a little girls' night, a little girls' chat. But in this video, I'm going to talk about how I got into my career, my thoughts on it, why, how I went about starting school, the money around it, the application fee, how much it was to secure my spot for college because that was kind of expensive, and my first semester. So it's kind of going to be like my first impressions, my first thoughts video. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe and follow the series. I do have one previous video in the series where I talked about job interview questions with the school board and with two different childcare centers, one being more laid back and one being more extreme. So if you need to know or need insight, watch that video. Okay, so if you guys do not know my story, we're gonna go over it so briefly, but just subscribe and watch some of my old videos so you'll know. I got pregnant at 15, grade 10, finished that semester out, had my daughter at 16 in October. My schooling was a little fucked for a little while, but I did graduate high school. And when I graduated high school, I posted that on my Instagram and how proud I was of that. And then I was kind of left in this weird stage of my life where I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Are we going to work a minimum wage job somewhere and just do the bare minimum and pray that I can get childcare figured out and hope for the best? Or are we going to go to school? So with this all being said, another thing that happened is that my dad was actually off work during this time frame. I forget the timelines, the way it lined up, but it was like either right before, I think it was right before I decided to go to college, if I'm being honest. But my dad was off work for 2 years due to falling 4 to 5 feet of a truck. I think I have a video explaining that whole situation. But he was off work, so that has a huge factor into my decisions here and my experience through college, which I will get into more in the future, but we're not into that yet. I was in this weird stage where I was like, okay, are we going to work at like Marshall's and Michael's and like maybe Walmart and just like have a bare minimum? Or are we going to start a career? And what the fuck do I even want to do? Because my mindset has changed now with this, but my mindset back then, which I think is definitely key information, was I hated the idea of student debt. Thought school would take forever, and the feeling of 2-year program sounded terrible. But I was like nervous about that. I was nervous about starting school, then hating the program, hating it because I also hated school in general. We'll get into that experience as well. But honestly, it was in the span of 4 weeks that I applied, got accepted, started school, and my life took a 360. And it was also, I thrived during the odd years. So this was back in late 2021 and I graduated in 2023, this current year. The odd years are where I thrive. The even years are where I lay the roots for the next year to blossom and really expand. I applied, and when I applied, I don't know if I applied for an ultrasound tech program. No, it was full until the next following January, but I wouldn't have got in because to be an ultrasound tech, you have to be like super smart and have like amazing, fantastic grades, and I was not there yet. I was not there. But that was also something I was considering. And how I kind of got into the decision to be an early childhood educator was I knew a friend that just did the program. So I kind of talked to her about it and her experience. B, I always knew that I loved working with children, but I didn't know in what aspect that was going to happen. C, I knew that the school board was definitely going to be more of like my thought process into it because I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Like, I have a young child at home. She's 7. Like, having summers off, PATs off, holidays off, it just makes sense for me personally. Another thing that kind of held me back was the fact that I didn't like daycares. And I don't mind them now, but I'm like more picky about the daycares I would ever send my future children to. Just because now I know a lot of inside information. With that being said, that's kind of how I, kind of just chose it. I was just like, okay, we're going to do this. It's a 2-year program. That seems so long, so stressful. But then I also had to apply for OSAP, which in Ontario, Canada, that is basically how the government will give you loans and grants to help you afford life and pay for schooling. So hence student loan fear, but hindsight's a beautiful thing, and it was so extremely worth it. I'm so extremely grateful. With this all being said, I did this all within 4 weeks. So I applied for school. I believe that was I want to say like $150 or something dollars. I heard back relatively quickly. I got accepted. Again, all within 4 weeks, and then I started school. Also had to apply for OSAP, get approved for OSAP, get the forms that OSAP needed, and get approved for a whole bunch of things. Like, it was a lot for the 4 weeks, but I kind of drove both feet in and was like, all right, we're going to do this, and we're doing this right now. So my first semester in school was part online, and well, my first semester actually was completely online. My second semester was half online, half in person, and that was how the rest of my semesters went, which was truly the best thing for me personally, because I was able to have a flexible schedule, balance childcare, but also I didn't like being on campus whatsoever, which I will get into definitely more details on that in my experience. And if I have any videos or pictures, I will include those. But anyways, so my first class was my communications class, because I had mandatory classes and then I had electives that I had to take as well. The electives always kicked my ass because I fucking hated those. But they kind of challenged me in a good way to definitely thrive and persevere through like extremely tough times and know that I can do hard things, which I will also get into how my last elective I got fucked over really bad, but it prepared me and made me consider the future differently. So stay tuned for that in the next video. So my first semester, it was good. A lot of my professors were amazing. There was one that I didn't particularly love, but it's fine. Like, you're not going to love every single professor. So yeah, it was what it was. And then it was virtual. So they were all on Zoom. I and my 2 friends I connected with, along with a few others, always had our cameras on. So when it came to group work, which I didn't realize in early childhood education, a lot of your projects are group work. So having a friend to do them with is like crucial. So connect with people, meet people, and now I'm still friends with my 2 best friends from college, and I still talk to them all the time. And it's like, we relate on a whole nother level because we went through the same experience together. We're in the same field together. So like, when I say I've been working all week and I'm so exhausted physically and mentally, because working with children is a different level of exhaustion. I don't care what anybody says. It's a different level if you work in education or you work with children, truly. And they get that, and we can relate to things, or if we're coming up with small and large groups for our classes that we're in and all of that stuff, like, we kind of communicate and we're like, what's another word can I use for this? And that's what we did in school a lot, is that we bounce ideas off of each other, or if we were stuck, we could communicate, or if one of us missed a class, someone else can make up for it by telling us what we did miss. So truly, that was amazing. So yeah, first semester was kind of crazy. Another thing is that I had to secure my spot, which was $300. So not only did I apply for college within a month, but then I also had to pay for the seat price was to secure my spot, which was virtual, so I was kind of annoyed about that. It was kind of a challenge. A lot of it was online, so I had Tuesdays off, and I spent a lot of my Tuesdays making up for a lot of things, and I had Friday afternoons off, so a lot of things were due on Sunday at midnight, and for me personally, I set the boundary, and I really tried to hold this boundary for the whole time I was in school. Sometimes I had to break it if I had like a super big assignment, or we're in group projects, we're trying to like make our schedules line up. But I try to keep the weekends off so I had time with like Leslie. And because I was online, I was able to pick Leslie up from school every day, except for like, I believe it was Wednesday, I couldn't pick her up because I had a class that was like, I couldn't miss it because there was so many key information, and we had like a test like every other week or something crazy. So hence my dad being off work, that was helpful because he was able to pick her up from school, and he could acknowledge the fact that like I was still in school working hard, and he firsthand saw that. It also worked out for placement wise because second semester I had a placement, and I was able to drop Leslie off at school because they were flexible in the hours, but he ended up picking Leslie up from school for me, which just made my life so much easier, and she didn't have to go into after school program until now when I'm in the career field. I would like her in before school program too, but I work in a field where we are short-staffed, overworked, underpaid, undervalued, I remember that brings me to another thing, is that my first class in early childhood education, I forget what it was. Talked a lot about like schedules in early childhood education, schedules in kindergarten, just like layout of the classroom, like the basic ground root stuff into early childhood education. She was like, she's like, I'm going to tell you this before you even get started. She was like, if you are in this career for the money, you're in the wrong career, because we are underpaid, undervalued, overworked, blah, blah. She's like, another thing is that you got to have patience like no other. She's like, if you don't have patience, you're in the wrong career field, which is still so true. And she's like, and I hope you enjoy working with kids, or otherwise, again, this is the wrong career field and you might as well just drop out now. And she was super honest, super real. And I was very grateful for that, because it really did put things into perspective for me, which I will also get into more into like the last year of school video of how I turned down, how much was it? I believe it was $7,000 or $8,000 I turned down to be in the position that I am right now and to have the career and the job that I have right now. And I'm smiling about it because I'm grateful that I did it. But in the moment, turning down $7,000 to $8,000 was a lot. I did buy a lot of my textbooks. I think I bought all the textbooks that the professors required first semester. And if I'm being honest with you guys, like, I tried to keep up on the readings for the first month, but I couldn't, and never looked at the textbooks again. I've actually sold them all now, and I don't have any regrets in selling them. I think they were insightful, and if you ever want to like look back of like certain types of things that you learn in child development, but I have all those PowerPoints saved, so if I ever need to like look back on things that are about a lot of the PowerPoints and a lot of the things that we learned right away about like brain development and pre-birth, so like when your baby is still in utero, learning about like what's developing, what milestones are, what's normal, what's not normal, learning about different disabilities. It's, at first I was very overwhelmed by it and like shocked by a lot of the things I was learning, but then at the same time now I look back and I'm like, wow, all those things make sense. I get what my teachers were saying, and I'm very grateful. First semester was a lot of like eye-opening things, but honestly, like on my Instagram, I have a highlight called New Chapter, and I kind of documented the first few weeks of school and balancing things and learning about different things, and I felt so inspired. And it was the first time in school that I was like, I love school, like love to a degree, but like I loved what I was learning, and learning about brain development. I think I've talked about 5 times now, learning about brain development and all these things about infants and toddlers and youth and up to like the age of 10 was really cool to see, and hearing about different behaviors. And it really honestly made me become a better mom, because there's a lot of strategies that I could implement personally while Leslie was only 4. She's 7 now, so she was 5, starting to implement that, and different ways of like making things work. So it was really cool in that aspect. First semester flew by. It was stressful, it was hard, but it definitely prepared me for my next semester, which included a placement, which added more work to it. I learned a lot about planning and implementing planning and the questions to ask, and the planning forms were so hard in the beginning, but then by the 4th semester, like I was able to do them in 20 minutes. And I remember my professors being like, I could fill this form in 10 minutes. And I was like, how? That took me 3 hours. And learning about How Does Learning Happen, which is a type of program in Ontario, Canada, that childcare centers need to hit. And then it extends into kindergarten. So like well-being, expression, belonging, and engagement. And those were all the frames that I was like, ooh, this is like crazy to me. And the kindergarten program, and looking at it, and How Does Learning Happen, it's so it would be like CLL 2.5 hit this in the cognitive aspect. And learning about those things were so interesting to me, and it was confusing and it was difficult in the beginning, but it was really interesting. And I'm so like, it made me love this career more and look at early childhood educators in any aspect, whether they're in a childcare center, especially registered ones, or they're in a kindergarten classroom. It honestly made me respect them a lot more and look at us as a professional rather than just a babysitter, just a nanny, just like, oh, you bring your kids to daycare so that they can watch them all day. Like, no, there's education behind it. There's reasons behind why we do activities and we say certain things, and we have concerns about different things that we see in your child. So it really changed the perspective of me for a lot of different reasons. But my first semester teachers were really amazing with making sure they're like, if you communicate with us, we can be flexible and fit what your needs are, but you have to communicate with us and you have to be honest about what's going on in your life so we can benefit, like, we can help and benefit yourself. So that was something that was interesting and different and insightful to me, that professors can be amazing. They can be really awesome. You can also be in groups with people that you don't particularly love and enjoy, but when you work in the early childhood education field, you are always put with other people, other staff members, other people in your classroom, supply staff, supervisors that you don't particularly love and enjoy. And this can be in any job, but you have to learn to work with them. You have to learn to be respectful with them and how to communicate properly and how to communicate with parents about certain subjects and how you would go about things in a respectful, mature, professional way. So yeah, I feel like this video is kind of all over the place, but at the same time, if you are thinking about going to school to be an early childhood educator, these are the things that like I learned, I looked for, and I paid attention to that was changed the game for me, and things that I stressed about and I worried about. And the workload is hard. Yes, any college program, the workload is hard, but it is 100% possible and it's 100% doable. And they have reading week, so the week right before you're getting like really stressed out, you have a week off to catch up on assignments, which is what I did a lot. If it was completely online, in person for me, it would change my experience quite a bit because it was easier for me to drop Leslie off at school, come home, hop on my computer, and have a hot coffee compared to dropping off at school, driving all the way to campus, parking my car, walking all the way across campus. At that point, I was 30 minutes late for class because the timing didn't line up that I could drop Leslie off at school for her school time, come home, and have 2 minutes to myself before I could open my computer and join class. So I think if you do have an online option, then you should take it if you do have young children at home or you don't have a car to get to and from places in a reasonable time. But it wasn't make or break my experience. I think it was a push for me to apply to college and do it because I was like, it is part online. So like that flexibility was so important to me. The whole first semester, I took lots of notes, and I'm looking up there because I have them all still, and it was inches of thickness in notes that I took from every single class. And I am grateful because it really helped me retain information. But then I didn't do it for the next 3 semesters because I was so stressed out with placement and placements assignments that I didn't take as many notes. And I feel like I did retain a lot of the information, but I didn't retain as much information because I wasn't taking the notes. But I had the reassurance of the PowerPoint always being there, and I still do. So in that aspect, I'm not mad about it because I can always look back on it, but note-taking definitely helped me a lot. Yeah, and I also surprised myself. I had really amazing marks, and that is something I didn't think I was capable of, and I didn't think I could achieve, was getting honors roll, and I did, and that was something I took major pride in. Which ultimately led me to thinking about getting my bachelor's degree, which I'm definitely going to get into the next video. I'm also going to get into more in depth of my placements and that experience in each one and things I learned and tips and tricks that I had. But I'm going to say making friends in your program is going to be critical if there is group projects or just so you have someone that's going through the exact same thing that you can talk to with and spend your time with and really relate on another level, because that truly was my sanity, and I think was my friend's sanity too, because there was a bond there and there was something that is so important within that. It's also good to like ask questions and pick schedules together, because that was a huge thing, was picking schedules every semester. That was so stressful. Honestly, it was like worse than exams is how the stress was. For me personally, I feel like my exams in my midterms the first semester, sure, they were hard, but if you went to class and you paid attention and you took the notes and you asked the questions and you did the assignments, and not just did the assignments, but understood why that assignment was important, I feel like the tests and the exams weren't as bad or weren't as hard as they were. Did I have a few that stumped me? Absolutely. But I was just giving my best in school, and I was exhausted every night, but I was trying to give my best, and I think my marks and my work truly showed that, because my marks were so amazing. And I'm talking 80s and above, 90s and above in all of my classes, which was something that like I took a lot of pride on, and I shared that on Instagram, coming from someone that was like a solid C, maybe a B student that struggled and had an IEP growing up. So to prove that I could be on honors roll and to prove myself was something that I took major pride in. It is exhausting. I'm not going to lie to you. It is so incredibly exhausting, but it's also so incredibly worth it. And this career that I chose is something that's so rewarding, and I'm so grateful. And to walk into a classroom every day and be called Miss Santa just makes my heart sing, and I could get emotional over it, because I love this, and I love my job, and I love my career, and that's not something a lot of people can say, but the fact that I can say it and I've worked so hard for this, it's undescribable. With that being said, this video is complete, and I love you guys. Thank you for listening to me rant. If you guys want more videos from this series besides the next one I've hinted about 5 times, then let me know. If you guys have any particular questions, please put them down below, and I'll answer them in a future Q&A. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.